Thanks for checking out my video. If you want to learn more from me, I have a lot of classes on Udemy. You can find the links to a lot of those in the description. Okay, so let's talk about the Black Mirror for a second. So, the Black Mirror that's used with the fragments of Nergak, right? Now, this involves psychology and basically a psychological explanation of how black mirrors work in lieu of the of sigils and the instructions in the book of how we stare at it. So in the instructions in the book, you have the sigil below the black mirror, and your job when you are summoning a spirit of Nergak is to look at the black mirror and picture the seal onto the black mirror. So you're staring at the black mirror, you're trying to visualize the seal. You look down, you see the seal, you look up, and you try to impose that seal onto that black mirror. And then by doing so, the book says that if you see the seal on that black mirror, then you have established contact with that particular spirit. Now, is that all you were going to see? Arguably, no. I've done several experiments with the Nergak spirits, and for me, it's very easy to visualize or impose images on different things just because I've been doing this for forever. With various, like, even daydreaming on the bus as a kid, and then through magical practice with visualizing casting circles and visualizing all sorts of different stuff, like my handy sigil magic method, and just overall all these rituals that I've gotten to have some success with the spirits of Nergak according to the different instructions that are listed in it. But when you're staring at the black mirror and you're supposed to picture that sigil, is that all you're going to see? No. The thing is that when we deprive our brains and our senses of new stimulation, that is a way of tricking the conscious to kind of step aside and allow the subconscious to come through, because your brain is starving for new input. That's why we scroll on our phones and whatnot, because we're starving for new input. And if you've ever heard of, like, there's a room, I forgot what university it's at, where it's actually negative in decibels, where sound is absorbed to the point where you can hear your own heartbeat and your own blood rushing in your veins. And then if you stay in there long enough, your mind actually starts to conjure up noise and different things. That's because of sensory deprivation and a lack of stimulation. So your brain wants to fill that because it's uncomfortable in silence. So when we're staring at the black mirror, your brain gets bored and it gets uncomfortable without the new stimulation. So when you're staring at the black mirror, it's the same concept as, like, crystal balls, right? If you stare at something long enough, you start to see things move and change. So you have the intent of working with a particular spirit or calling up a particular energy or an archetype or what have you, depending on the model of magic that you follow. And as you're doing it, your brain the conscious will arguably step aside, and then your subconscious will start to manipulate what you are seeing. So, from a psychological model, you're bringing up the intention and whatnot that you're trying to conjure, which then can cause different images to be shown in the black mirror. If you're going with a spiritual model, which of course this is what spiritual model is what the Simon Necronomicon and the Nergak and whatnot, and a lot of systems of evocation and invocation are based on, is that when you're staring at the black mirror, in this case, anything that you see or hear or whatever that might come through the mirror is the spirit that you are trying to contact, because the spirits, like, we have the subconscious antenna that I always talk about, and this is what we use to communicate with different spirits, and then they are able to communicate something through us, which is then imposed on the mirror, which is then brought into our awareness. So we are the funnel, and the spiritual influence comes through us, goes in the mirror, and then is reflected back to us. There's always a back and forth with sensation and whatnot. So this is arguably how the Black Mirror works with the fragments of Nergak ritual. So, if you don't have a Black Mirror, you can use a crystal ball or whatnot, but I got one off of Etsy. It was really, really easy to get. If you don't have one, you could simply be staring at a black piece of paper. But it has to be, you know, with the two different candles on either side, which when you have the candles going and they flicker and whatnot in the dark, that is also, it kind of helps with the visual sensations that you are working with when you're working with the fragments of Nergak, because it's not a stable light, so it helps your brain kind of get tricked into, am I seeing something different, you know and it's kind of hard to explain. It's more of an experiential thing, so of course I'm trying to do my best here, but the flickering of the candles can help bring the images that from your subconscious out onto the mirror and then back into your awareness. So yeah, this was just a little bit on how the Black Mirror works with the fragments of Nergak in that particular ritual, and even if you were to use a Black Mirror or a scrying type of mirror or whatnot in your rituals. So let me know what you think about this one or any other experiences or that you might have had with the fragments of Nergak, or any other experiences you might have had with working with things like staring into a bowl of water or into a crystal ball or something like that. Good hunting.